Hey there. Ready to dive into the world of habits? We're going to be looking at some excerpts from Charles Duhigg's The Power of Habit,
Oh, yeah, some really fascinating stuff in there.
for sure. How they work, and most importantly, how to actually, change them.
Right. Because they're so powerful.
Yeah. So we got to start, with the foundation, the habit loop. Duhigg has this really interesting example of rats in a maze.
Yeah, those maze experiments are like classics for a reason.
Totally. So these researchers, they noticed a pattern in the rats' brains. They'd hear this click, which meant the maze was starting, and their brains lit up.
Like a little light bulb going off.
Right. And then boom, they find the chocolate at the end, another surge of activity in the brain.
The reward.
Exactly. So click is the cue, the maze is the routine, and the chocolate is the reward.
Makes sense.
But here's the thing. Over time, the rats' brains, they got really efficient.
They're smart little guys.
They didn't even really have to think about the maze. Just went on autopilot.
Autopilot, that's exactly it. And that's a habit in a nutshell. Your brain's like, hey, we've done this a million times. Let's save some energy.
Yeah, like I don't have to really concentrate on brushing my teeth anymore, or even driving to work sometimes.
Exactly. But this autopilot thing, it can make us vulnerable too, right?
Oh, totally. Like marketers, they're pros at hijacking our habit loops.
Oh, for sure. Cues, rewards, boom, you're craving something you might not even need. Like, ever notice how grocery stores always have that fresh bread smell?
Oh my gosh, all the time. I'm like a moth to a flame.
See? They know what they're doing, playing with our brains. But the good news is, once we know how it works, we can start to change those habits.
So it's not all doom and gloom.
No way, there's hope. And speaking of hope, one of the most powerful examples in the book is about Eugene Pauly, this guy who lost his ability to form new memories.
I remember reading about him. That was wild. Brain damage, right?
Yeah, viral encephalitis, couldn't even remember what he'd eaten for breakfast.
But he could still learn new habits. How's that even possible?
It blew the researchers' minds, too. Turns out his hippocampus, the part of the brain for new memories, was damaged, but the basal ganglia, that's the habit center, it was fine.
So even without memories, his brain was forming habits. That's incredible.
Incredible. Shows how powerful the basal ganglia is. Habits, they operate on a deeper level than we even realize.
It's like a hidden world inside our brains.
Totally. And that brings us to cravings. Remember those?
Oh yeah, can't forget those. Those are powerful.
Powerful. Duhigg uses pepsodent as an example. Back in the day, no one really brushed their teeth.
I can't even imagine.
Right. But then Claude Hopkins, this marketing whiz, he figures out people don't crave clean teeth, they crave something else.
Okay, I'm curious. What is it?
He called it tooth film, that kind of gritty feeling you get when you run your tongue over your teeth.
Ugh, yeah, gross.
Exactly. And he turned that icky feeling into a cue. People became obsessed with getting rid of it.
Brilliant. So he basically created a problem and then offered the solution. Classic marketing.
Classic. Pepsodent became a huge hit. He wasn't selling toothpaste, he was selling a feeling, a craving.
So that's what it all comes down to, cravings. Makes you wonder what other cravings are driving our actions,
That's a good question. And if they can manipulate cravings to sell toothpaste, can we use them to change our own habits?
That's what I want to know.
Well, that's exactly what Duhigg dives into next.
So we can be manipulated, huh? But can we, manipulate our own cravings to change our habits, I mean?
That is the question, isn't it? And Duhigg gives us a framework for doing just that. It's called the golden rule of habit change.
Golden rule. Okay.
I like it already.
It's pretty simple, actually. You keep the cue and the reward the same, but you change the routine.
Okay, so if I always grab a cookie when I'm stressed at work, that's the cue, and the reward is, well, the cookie.
Yeah, the sugar rush.
But instead of trying to, never feel stressed again, which is impossible,
Right, good luck with that.
I just change what I do when I'm stressed.
Exactly. Find a new routine, but one that still gives you a reward. So instead of a cookie, maybe I go for a walk or listen to some music.
You got it. You're still dealing with the stress, but in a healthier way.
I could get behind that for sure. But Duhigg also talks about belief, right? Like believing you can actually change.
Oh, yeah, belief is huge. He tells this story about Tony Dungy, the coach who turned the Tampa Bay Buccaneers around.
Oh, yeah, they were like the ultimate underdog story.
Totally. And Dungy, he knew you can't just tell people to change, especially ingrained habits. So he focused on changing their instincts, on the field.
By drilling them on specific routines over and over.
Until it was automatic.
Like muscle memory.
Exactly. He reprogrammed their habits, which changed their whole game.
Again, they won the Super Bowl. See, belief works.
It does. You gotta believe you can change or you won't even try. And that leads us to another cool idea. Keystone habits.
Keystone habits. What are those?
They're like habits that have a ripple effect. They change other parts of your life, too. Duhigg uses Paul O'Neill, the CEO of Alcoa, as an example.
I think I've heard of him. Wasn't Alcoa known for being kind of a dangerous place to work?
Yeah, their safety record was awful. But when O'Neill took over, he made worker safety his top priority. Not profits, not production. Safety.
That's pretty bold.
It was. People thought he was crazy. But he insisted on reporting every accident, investigating everything.
Wow, he meant business.
He did. And what happened was, this focus on safety, it actually made everything better.
How so?
Communication improved, people felt valued, productivity went up, and Alcoa became one of the most successful companies out there.
Because of worker safety.
It's a perfect example of a keystone habit. One change, a cascade of positive effects. And it works for individuals, too.
So what's like a keystone habit for a regular person?
Well, think about exercise.
Exercise, okay.
It's not just about being physically fit. It can boost your mood, your energy, even your willpower.
Wait, exercise can boost willpower?
It can. Studies show that people who exercise regularly are better at resisting temptation, controlling impulses, sticking to goals.
So like hitting the gym could help me break bad habits.
Exactly. Habits are all connected. Improving one can make it easier to change others.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
But we've been talking about individual habits. What about like social habits? How do they fit in?
Great question. Duhigg looks at the Montgomery bus boycott for this.
A classic example of social change.
Right. And he points out that Rosa Parks' arrest was the spark, but the boycott's success came from the network of social connections in the community.
So it's like her individual action triggered a collective response.
Exactly. Her close friends, they mobilized quickly, but the boycott really took off because of those weaker connections to acquaintances, people who knew people.
So it was relationships plus social pressure.
Exactly. People felt like they had to participate. Because everyone else was doing it, it became the norm.
The power of the group.
And that collective action led to desegregation in Montgomery. Pretty powerful, right? But social habits can work against us, too.
Oh, yeah, peer pressure and all that.
He tells the story of Angie Bachman, a mom who got addicted to gambling.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
It started with trips to the casino with friends, but soon she was chasing losses, trying to win back what she'd lost.
Sounds like a slippery slope.
It is. And the casino environment, it's designed to keep people hooked. You know, flashing lights, sounds of winning, free drinks.
They know what they're doing.
Oh, yeah, they're manipulating people's habits. But Angie's story also brings up personal responsibility.
Because even though the casino was like encouraging her addiction, she still made the choice to keep gambling.
It's complex, right? Duhigg doesn't give easy answers. Angie's story is more like a warning to be mindful of the environments we're in.
And the habits they might encourage.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, how much control do we really have over our habits? Is free will even real?
That's getting deep. I mean, some things we can't control, right? Like our biology.
Duhigg tackles that, too. He uses the story of Brian Thomas, the guy who killed his wife during a sleep terror.
Oh, wow, that case was terrifying.
Hmm.
What happens in the brain during those?
It's like a short circuit. The rational part shuts down, but the fear and emotion centers are going haywire.
So the person's acting purely on instinct.
Exactly. Brian Thomas thought he was defending his wife from an attacker.
And the court found him not guilty because of that.
Yeah, they did. It raises a lot of questions, though. If our brains can make us do things we're not aware of, how do we hold people accountable?
That's a tough one. But how does this tie back to habits?
It shows how our biology and our behavior are intertwined. We might not always be conscious of the impulses driving us, but we can learn to manage them.
So it's not all predetermined.
No, we're not just puppets of our brains. We can change. It just takes effort and awareness.
That's reassuring. So we're not totally off the hook.
Not at all. That's one of the most empowering messages from the book. We have the power to choose to become the architects of our own lives.
Even if it's hard.
Even if it's hard. But that's where Duhigg's framework comes in.
Right. Figure out the routine, the reward, the cue, have a plan.
It's simple, but powerful. It can work for any habit.
So it's about self-discovery, experimenting, finding what works.
And ultimately taking control. You know, Duhigg says, change might not be fast, and it isn't always easy, but with time and effort, almost any habit can be reshaped.
That's a good quote to remember. But what about the social side of things? Do we need other people to help us change?
You bring up a good point. Duhigg talks about that too. He says social support is huge for change.
Well, yeah, we're social creatures, right?
We are. He uses Alcoholics Anonymous as an example. Shared experiences, mutual support, that helps people break free.
I've heard AA is very effective.
It is. And Duhigg says it's because of social influence. Being in a group makes you accountable, gives you encouragement, a sense of belonging.
This is not just about willpower, it's about the power of the group.
Exactly. And this applies to other things too, like joining a gym with a friend, finding a mentor, telling someone your goals. Social support makes a difference.
So even though habits are often unconscious, changing them can be a social thing.
For sure. It's about awareness, intention, and connection. And it means we don't have to go it alone. We can help each other.
That's actually really nice to think about. So we've covered a lot here. The habit loop, cravings, belief, social habits, free will, and our brains.
Even the ethics of manipulating habits and how much responsibility we have for our own choices.
It's been a wild ride through the science of habits and how we can use this knowledge to, actually change our lives.
And now it's time to put it into practice.
So much to think about. If someone's listening to all this about habits, what's the one thing they should really remember?
That habits aren't set in stone. We can change them and make real changes in our lives,
Yeah, that's easy to forget when you're stuck in a rut, especially the bad ones.
Sure. But Duhigg gives us the tools to understand and change those routines. First, you got to be aware. Take a look at your own habits. What triggers them? What do you actually do? And what's the payoff, the reward?
Okay, so figure out that habit loop. Then you can try different things that give you the same reward, but maybe a better way to get it.
You got it. Like rewiring your brain's circuitry.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And even small changes can add up, right? You don't have to overhaul your whole life overnight.
No. Habits are built slowly, bit by bit. So those little tweaks, over time, they make a big difference.
It's like compound interest. But those keystone habits we talked about, those are powerful stuff. One change can set off a chain reaction.
Exactly. Like Paul O'Neill and the safety thing in Alcoa, that one decision made everything better. Communication, productivity, even the whole community benefited.
Shows how much impact even one change can have. And it's not just about individuals, right? Organizations can use this stuff too.
Absolutely. Think about Starbucks. They trained their employees to have more willpower, made things better for the workers and the customers.
Win-win. Leaders who get this habit stuff, they can really make a difference.
They can. But it all starts with awareness, taking a good look at yourself, and being open to changing.
And you don't have to do it alone, right?
Nope. Tell a friend, find a group, get a mentor. Sharing your goals makes a huge difference. Makes you more accountable, gives you support.
We're social creatures after all. So as we wrap up this deep dive, feeling pretty hopeful. Habits can be tough, but we're not helpless.
I agree. We have choices. We can change. We can shape our own lives.
That's what I'm taking away from all this, the power of habit. We have the power to change our habits, and by doing that, change our whole destiny.
That's the big takeaway. We're not just stuck with what we've got. We can build the life we want.
So to everyone listening, take a look at your own habits. The good, the bad, the ugly. What's working for you? What's holding you back? And most importantly, what one small change can you make today to get closer to the life you want?
You got this. Even baby steps can lead to big changes. Be patient, be consistent, and enjoy the journey.
And hey, if you need some help along the way, reach out. There are people who understand, who've been there.
Community support, that's a big part of it too.
Absolutely. So until next time, keep those habit loops spinning in the right direction.
And remember, you've got the power to make those changes.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the power of habit. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.
See you then.